When you say you're a sustainable brand, you have to look at every single way you work.
Yeah.
So there's several ways that we, like you say, that are not financially driven, that we had to make decisions and they've cost us a lot of money. One of my biggest goals, I want a bloody nice place to work.
Yeah.
I want people to come into work and just absolutely love their job. If I ever sit there and I put my head in my hands, I've had it every week, probably since starting, I put my head in my hands and I'm like, you know what? Screw this. I don't want to do this anymore. It'd be easier if I got a job. I think about little Callow's face and when she grows up and she sees her mummy and she says, you know what, my mummy did this when I was little. And if I did step away, I want it to be by decision, not by force. No, I know I've got it in me to do it.
Yeah.
I always say this to myself all the time. This business will be massive if I want it to be.
Hi there, welcome to Directors Debrief. This episode is a little bit different. We have a guest, and it's none other than the owner and entrepreneur behind The Wandering Bee, a fantastic e-commerce business that makes kick-ass, kind candles using beer bottles. Beth is an incredible entrepreneur who founded this business in her kitchen, from making the website, marketing and advertising, to making the candles too, and everything in between. She asked me why I wanted her to be on the podcast, and the main reason was to pick at the brain of somebody who's started, pushed on through the difficult times, showed up consistently, promoted her business on social media, and turned up to the market and didn't let up. You'll see from this conversation that it wasn't all smooth sailing. It was anything but an easy ride. But here we are, a year later, and she's grown as an entrepreneur. She's grown as a person, and her business has outgrown her kitchen, and there are no signs of slowing down. In this conversation, we talk about entrepreneurship, the high points, and the support and self-realizations needed to get through the low points. There is a lot to learn from Beth and her journey, and I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. If you do, please make sure to like and subscribe, as we want to shine a light on a lot more cool and young businesses. Hello, welcome to Directors Debrief episode... Ram, put the number in there because you're not here and I don't know what episode we're on. We're here with, I'm glad we've gone live because I wanted to ask you this for a really, really long time.
Okay, go on.
I feel like you're most referred to by your nickname.
Yeah.
And I've been questioning a lot whether I know you well enough to call you by your nickname. But it does feel really odd when I'm the only one calling you Beth.
It's actually the other way around. The people that are close to me call me Beth.
Okay.
And then people that don't really know me call me B.
Okay. What would you rather I called you?
Either. Beth.
Okay.
You know me as Beth.
Oh, okay. Because if you would have said B.
Yeah, actually, just refer to me as B. Yeah.
I'm joined today by Beth from The Wandering Bee. In your own words, would you like to introduce yourself very quickly?
Yeah, so my name's B, and I won The Wandering Bee. We make kick-ass kind candles out of beer bottles. So originally from Stone. We moved to London. I met Sam at uni, didn't we?
Yeah.
And then I moved back to Stone, and that's when I started my business.
So I have a couple of questions for you, where I'm going to be asking you about entrepreneurship. That's kind of the focus of the podcast. I'd love to, like I said sort of before we started rolling, I have a million questions about your business. What made you go, let's start this, we got to go?
I just felt completely unfulfilled. So I was working in a really rubbish job as a recruiter that I hated, and I knew I wanted to have a baby.
I worked a little bit in recruitment.
Oh, it sucks.
Is it not? Okay, I'm so glad you said it.
Yeah, it's just like the worst job. Well, it was for me anyway. I hated it. I had my baby, so she was 9 months old. I knew I needed another job. I started a job at the dentist, and I was just a receptionist. I say just a receptionist. It's actually really hard. People don't give receptionists a good enough rep. Like, it's a really hard job.
Top tip in life: be super nice to receptionists.
You get the best things as well. Like, if you're nice to a receptionist, we will hook you up. We'll be calling you like, we've actually got 2 p.m. So I was working at the dentist, and I was completely unfulfilled. I knew I had potential. You feel like when you've got a bit of entrepreneurship about you have like a burning desire inside to do something, and I knew I wanted to do something.
I'm really sorry to interrupt, because I think you've touched on something really awesome and something that may benefit some people that might be lacking the confidence on this. You knew you had potential. I genuinely believe that everybody has potential, but not everybody knows it.
100% bang on.
So how did you feel like you had potential, or what made you realize that you had potential?
I think from a very young age, when I was like literally born, I don't really get embarrassed about things. So like
Which is a superpower.
Yeah, it's like a superpower, but it's my parents are
Okay.
super confident. So like my dad, he is like one of the most confident men you'll ever meet. Like it's amazing. My mum is like, she walks into a room and she lights up a room. Like she's got everything about her, and I've been brought up by two people who have told me to walk in a room and like own the space.
Awesome.
So I felt like I've been very blessed to have parents that have given me so much confidence. And it's not just my parents, all my family are very confident. I have a very extrovert family.
Okay.
So I think I've grown up around a lot of people that have told me you can do anything. You can do anything you put your mind to. So it's fed me with confidence. Don't get me wrong, I lose it. Probably every week, probably once a day, I'll have like a meltdown where I'm like, I haven't got this, or, you know, X, Y, Z. But that kind of like belief that I had more to give, I feel like I've always had. When I was at the dentist, I was just like, you know what, I'm going to start a business. I've done it before with Josh in London. I kind of worked for Josh, and I wanted my own thing.
What were you doing there, sorry?
We ran a little graphic design business called Pink Ginger.
Okay, cool.
And he was the graphic designer, and I kind of did everything back end. So I dealt with his payments. I built the website, did all the, you know, dealing with clients for him, and then he did the actual work.
Okay.
But that didn't work out because two reasons really. We were living in London, it was really expensive.
Yep.
Really
it's only gotten worse, by the way.
Oh yeah, it was really expensive, and we couldn't really afford to work our jobs and not pick up overtime to focus on the graphic design.
Yeah.
So it was like we had to give it up. So when we moved here, I was like, I knew I still had the skills to do something.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of pushed me to go, what am I going to do? What are we going to do? Right, I'm going to do a business. And then I just went for it.
Cool. And then what was the sort of selection process like? Because business is very, very vague. I think anybody who's known you through your Wandering Bee journey would say that you're I don't know, at least from an outsider's point of view, I saw you making the candles. I was like, oh, she's clearly a candle expert.
Yeah.
Right? So how did you come about to at least represent yourself in that way? How did you go from I want a business to
candles,
to candles, and also to someone who knows their shit about candles?
Yeah. I knew obviously I had this idea that I wanted to start a business. I've sold artwork before as well. I did that for a while.
Yeah.
So I was like, why don't I sell artwork again? My goal was to work for myself. It didn't matter what it was doing. I just wanted to work for myself. And I was looking at ways to get a really good get-going business from the get-go. So you start a business, you can start making a profit.
Yeah.
To push me into making a job. There was, oh my God, the list goes on. But one of them on there was candles.
Okay.
Through lockdown, it's one of the fastest growing markets at the moment. Like everybody and anyone is starting businesses making either wax melts or candles.
Okay.
And I just sat on the sofa and I was like, what about candles? And Josh was like, yes. And we're both very spiritual, and when we have a gut feeling, we know to go for it. So he said yes, and there and then, in that moment, just a random moment, I sat on Google, went on Amazon, I ordered 2 bags of wax, my fragrance oil, and I just sat back for 2 whole weeks, and this is my ADHD tendencies. I hyper-focused can I swear?
Yeah, go on.
Hyper-focused the shit out of it.
Yeah.
Like, I literally... every minute of every waking day, I'd wake up and I was searching how to make candles. I wrote down formulas, I wrote down chemical compounds, I was working out the difference between this wax, this wax, this wax. I must have tested about 100 wicks.
Okay.
I'm ultimate perfectionist.
Yeah.
And after, weeks, I think it was like a month of making so many batches of candles.
Yeah.
I had this one, which is my recipe now, and I was like, that is just the best candle I've ever had. And that's kind of how it started, because I'd found a product that I knew was better than anything I've had before.
Okay. So I'm noticing a bit of a contrast, which is from your long list of prospects of things that you could sell on the Wandering Bee or things that you could do for yourself as a business. You went candles.
Yeah.
Josh went yes. You made it work.
Yeah.
So that to me seems like, you say, a spiritual decision or maybe an impulse decision. But then when it came to actually implementing the candles, you sound very methodical.
Yeah.
Like you're testing along the process. Where did that come from?
I think it's just, I like to have things perfect.
Right, okay.
Like, I don't do anything by halves. I'm like one of these people. So, for example, when I wanted to start my vlogging channel years ago, I was at uni. I had no money whatsoever. I bought the best camera for vlogging at that moment and went into my overdraft. It cost us 450 quid. And I was like, I went all out. That is me. Like, I want things to be like perfect. So that's where that came from. It was like this desire to have something. I want you to be able to burn that candle and say, that is the best candle I've ever had. And if you don't, I won't proceed. Like, it has to be the best. That's kind of where the methodical part of me comes in.
That's incredible. So, sorry to turn this negative. The question I want to ask you is, have you found that hinder you in any way? Do you find any limitations of only the best goes through?
100%, yeah. It slows you down massively.
Slows you down?
Oh, massively. Jenny, mum, who works for us, she would say this 10 times over. I am so methodical with the way I like things, and I like them to be perfect, that we make candles at a much slower rate than, say, as if you came on and I taught you how to do it. This makes me sound crazy, but I literally, so I make the candle, right, and then I have 2 types of microfibers, and I wipe it down once with one microfiber, I stick them, then I wipe it down with a second microfiber, then we check it 3 times to make sure there's no wax residue. Then I get the next microfiber, wipe it down, and then put it in the box. So it does slow me down massively. However, I think it pays off in the return of the people. There'll be no fingerprints on that candle when you receive it. So I do think it pays off, but it does slow me down.
You mentioned you worked in recruitment.
Yes.
And there are a few aspects. I did a very brief stint in recruitment.
Okay.
And I didn't like that a lot of the things that you had to do in that role didn't make sense to me, but were still somehow effective in the business. So we ended up having to do a lot of relationship calls. So this is where people who are looking for jobs, you call them just for a chat, just so it looks like you're doing a good job. I didn't like that, because I imagined myself in their shoes, just getting that call of just like, well, have you got a job? Why have you called me? But I'm just curious, because I think recruitment is sort of synonymous with sales. And that's an industry that you definitely need confidence to succeed in. And I'm just curious, what aspects of recruitment drove you away from it, firstly?
Monotonous. I was having the same conversation over and over again. It's just one of those roles where I'm a people person. I love talking. The biggest thing that my 2 managers that I had that would say that I ran away with was conversations. I made friends with my clients. I had 2 of them add me on Facebook. Like, I would get carried away in conversation. I would learn their star signs. I knew how many pets they had and what they were doing at the weekend with the kids. Like, I was very, very, very chatty, to the point where it would hinder my job role, because I would get too carried away talking. Now, what I didn't like was that conversation was very unnatural. I had to follow a script by the end, because everybody, not just me, they weren't like, no, you're too much, follow this script. Everybody had a script. And as the business kind of changed in the recruitment area, aspect of it changed, this script was just so mechanical. And I can't do mechanical. I'm not a mechanical person. I'm very animated. I like to, when I ask a question, I'm genuinely asking a question. And what I struggled with recruitment, I was being asked to ask questions that, for me, I was like, that's so false. It doesn't flow in our conversation. I can sell myself, and I can sell the role if you let me do it. But when I was being like guided on what exactly to say, I actually find the selling of the role difficult. You know? So
that's a great point. So you said you can sell yourself, which ultimately leans itself into the age-old people don't buy from companies, they buy from people.
That's true.
What sort of advantages have you found being yourself carries? Your confident, extroverted self. You've mentioned sometimes when you do like local drop-offs, you get carried away in conversation as well.
I do.
What sort of advantages do you think have come from that in the business? I hate to use the word advantage, but do you know what I mean?
Well, it is an advantage. I actually think it's a massive advantage, because, when people ask, well, what's different about your business that they don't have you? I'd say one of the aspects of the Wandering Bee is that if someone was to go and steal this idea, someone was going to go and recreate the Wandering Bee, one of the things that is key to the Wandering Bee is me. And I don't mean that in a big-headed way. I think a lot of entrepreneurs would say that about their own business, because you're for example, in yours, like you and Ash run your thing, it's what you do in your kind of business.
Space.
Yeah, exactly. But one of the things for me is we're super honest. And we take ownership of when we get things wrong. I am super, super open and honest about when I've got things wrong. We had this massive issue at the start of the business where all of our candles were sinking. They were lighting these candles and they were just tunneling down the middle. And instead of what I'm not saying that other people would, but I'm guessing there'll be entrepreneurs out there that would say, not my problem.
Sure.
Sorry.
I've seen that happen.
Yeah, not my problem. For me, it was, you know what, that's my mistake. I'm ever so sorry. Let me give you a refund.
Okay.
And
that must have taken a hit though.
Yeah, it did, but no, in the same way, because those customers are still my customers today.
Amazing. Okay.
I dropped off candles to people's houses. I've gone and apologised to them. And Josh would always say, "It's not the end of the world, Beth. It's just a candle.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. You can chill out." But I get no, I want them to go away and be like, "That's the best customer service I've received." So at the time, it was annoying. But. I lost a lot of money, but it paid off because those customers are still my customers today, and they're my best customers.
Yeah.
So
my next question is sort of, as a young entrepreneur, you must have had several opportunities to back out of this business. There must have been several scary moments at the start, low points, and oddly enough, as we just discussed, at some of the high points in terms of going, maybe this is a bit too much.
Yeah.
What made you press on? What was the thing in your heart that you were just like, it doesn't matter. I got to keep going.
It's so hard, this question, because there's two things and there's two sides, and one's really self-centered. Okay. And it's me, my ego, and I don't want to be the person that goes, I couldn't do it. I didn't want to be like that person that go, that thing that everybody hears. If it was easy, everyone would do it. Yeah. Well, I want to be the person that does it. Okay. So that's my ego. Okay. My ego fights on.
It's very self-aware, that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. But my ego...
Just went straight into the...
Yeah, I did. Well. But my ego, that is. And then the other part is callow. Having a child, it's... If I ever sit there and I put my head in my hands, I've had it every week, probably since starting. I put my head in my hands and I'm like, you know what? Screw this. I don't want to do this anymore. It'd be easier if I got a job. I think about little Callow's face, and when she grows up and she sees her mummy and she says, you know what, my mummy did this when I was little. One day it might, it could be next week. I could say, you don't want to do this anymore. And if I did step away, I want it to be by decision, not by force. I would hate it if I was forced out. I'd be way more upset than if I went, actually, I don't want to do this anymore, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What part of you is doing this to show your daughter now, somebody you're a very influential figure in her life, that you got to press on? Is that a factor? Is that something that you think about often?
Actually, no, it's not.
No? Okay.
I do when I go to quit. So every time I go to quit, I think about her. Yeah. But actually, the day-to-day, I know, with your mum, and I am with my mum could do nothing. I'd be proud of my mum. My mum goes to muck out her horse and I'm like, well done. You are so good that you're going up to muck out the horse at 8 a.m. Yeah. So I know she'd be proud of me if I was just at the dentist still, I know she'd be just as proud. It's just those moments where I go to quit that in my head, I'm like, but look at this business. Yeah. Look what I did. But I think actually, to answer the question, it is more of my ego. I don't want to let it go. I know I've got it in me to do it. Yeah. I always say this to myself all the time. This business will be massive if I want it to be. Yeah. The only way, I think the only way this business won't continue to grow and be as big as I want it to be is if I decide I don't want it. Yeah. And I think that's the difference. It'll be me who ends this business. I don't think it would just end. I know that I've got a good enough product. It's just, if my motivation, if my passion for it continues, I know the business will continue to grow. I think I'm in the driver's seat at the moment as to where this business goes, whether it continues to grow or I go, actually, that's enough. Yeah.
Forgive me for asking this. What's been your lowest point in running this business?
Oh, God, that's so sad that I'm doing that because we've only been going just over a year. But it's that hard. There's lots of low moments.
I don't know what the specific figure is, but I believe something like 50% of businesses will fail in their first year. So you've already overcome that hurdle. So I think you are entitled to sort of talk about the low points at this stage. You've kind of overcome a big one.
There was one major one where we were at home. It was just before Christmas. It was in November. Yeah. I remember the month. That's when you know it's bad.
At 16:04.
It was 11 a.m. And we dropped Cal off at school, and Josh was working upstairs in his full-time job because he's a graphic designer. Yeah. And he heard me crying, and he came downstairs. He went, "What's wrong?" And I was on the decking, And I just was like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And it was just an overwhelming amount of pressure to like, one, make money, because I'd quit my job at the dentist, so I was doing it full time.
Yeah.
So I had to make money. Christmas was approaching. Everybody knows, especially when you've got kids.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, there's an intense amount of pressure on parents to provide for your children.
Yeah.
But apart from all that, take that all away, take the money side away. I have an intense amount of pressure on me to make people happy. I'm a people pleaser.
Is that from within?
Okay. I'm a massive people pleaser. I just like to make people happy. And the amount of pressure that I was having to try and, you know, show up, be on Instagram, you know, make candles as fast as I needed to make candles, make sure everyone was happy. Yeah. It was just a bit too much. And then we were on top of each other in the house. We had gone through, at that moment in time, we'd pulled up all the kitchen flooring to make the kitchen into a warehouse, and my kitchen's smaller than this room, so it's really small. Yeah, it's small, my kitchen is. Yeah. So, and we were working in it, and I mean, it was so bad. I have 3 cats, 2 dogs, and a 3-year-old. One part of me felt like I was doing the best job in the world, and the other part of me was like, how much easier would it be if I just went back to the dentist?
Right.
You know?
And so my next question is for essentially the people that might be going through that, because setting up your business or whatever new thing you might be going through in your life, I don't think that's an isolated thing. I don't think it's something just you go through. What was the thing that you felt picked you back up?
Josh, yeah. He is my yin to my yang. We are the complete opposites of one another. Okay. I'm very, the world's gonna end. And he's the complete opposite. He is super calm. He sees the positive in everything. And one of the best things he says to me all the time is that, what's the end of the world? He always say it to me. He always go, it's not the end of the world. And because it's so overused, that phrase, you always just go, yeah, but it is, blah, blah, blah. But in that moment when he said it to me, we were on the decking and he put his arm around me and he was like, you're just making candles. You're not saving people's lives. Sure. You're just making candles. You're just doing the best you can do. It was like a moment where I went, yeah, I am. I picked myself up. I remember standing up and I walked back in the kitchen and the sun was coming down on me and had this level of appreciation, because this moment, what I'm doing right now, right now is what I've dreamed of doing my entire life. Sure. I've dreamed of working for myself. And at this moment I was like, stop being a spoiled little brat. I was like, pick yourself back up and get in that kitchen. With myself. I was like, you know what? You work for yourself. You have no boss goody breathing down your throat and you're crying because you've got to make candles. Get up. Yeah. And I kind of had this like tough love in me, and that's from my dad as well, because I would hear my dad's voice in me going, stop being a wimp, get up. So in that aspect, I would say Josh always brings me round. He can talk me into, he literally always talked me out of a bad mood. Yeah. So and then also having this like inside me, I was like, I'm being spoiled. I just need to get on, I'll work hard. You
want to know something that what my our warehouse manager said after meeting you two? Yeah. He phrased you guys in the best way possible. Yeah. You guys are the easiest people to root for.
Oh, that's so nice.
He said that, and I was like, "That's fucking bang on." Because like the way Ash and I were talking about you guys, as people and the business that you're running, I realized that was a very accurate description. You're very, very easy to root for.
Oh, that's so nice.
I want to talk about more for a brief moment about being a female entrepreneur. Yeah. Do you find it to be the case, before I make too many assumptions, that women are more expressive of their emotions?
I think I don't want to offend anyone, but I think we can be very emotional, but I think it comes with a lot of passion. Okay. I think I am very easy to show my emotion because I'm very passionate. Yeah. I'm a lot tougher in front of, say, yourself or Jenny or somebody that isn't Josh. Yeah. I can hold it together a lot more. Yeah. And then I let it out when I'm with Josh. But I do wear my heart on my sleeve, and it's actually something I'm still learning today to do, is when I am feeling emotional about something, is being able to step away. But to be honest, it doesn't really happen. I don't really get emotional with strangers. It's more about when it's to do with my family unit, when something's affecting my family unit. Yeah. But business... Do
you think there are any advantages and also disadvantages to having more expressive characters in an office?
Yes and no. Because I think being able to express yourself and be honest is great. Yeah. But there's a level where it goes too far. Okay. And I was a classic person that looking back, I can see why my managers may have found me difficult to deal with. I used to think, why would you think I'm difficult? Because I'm just honest. No, there's a level. There's a level, and I think where the level crosses is when you go over emotional, where you're disrupting your own work, other people's work, and you're demanding attention. One thing a manager taught me, Colette, I worked for this guy, right, in Selfridges when I was in London, and he said to me, and it stayed with me my whole life, I use it all the time, is when you go to somebody with an issue, you create a monkey. And entrepreneurs will have lots of monkeys. Maybe when you're at work, you just have 3, and it's those tasks for the day. So if I come to you, you're my manager, and I say, you know what, the wires under the desk, they're causing problems. It's a monkey. You might not deal with it right now, and I might think, well, you're not doing anything about it, you don't care. But actually in the back of your head, that's another monkey on your shoulder. And every time you keep going to that person, you're adding another monkey on their shoulder. What I think, looking back, what I used to do in jobs was I'd go to my manager with everything, thinking I was doing something great. This is a problem, we need this problem fixing. I'm happy to fix it if you want me to fix it. Don't fix that right now, Beth. I'll come to that later. But I've just created them a monkey. I've just gained another monkey. And then next week I'd go to them for another issue. And it sounds like I was creating issues, but I wasn't. I was actually trying to solve problems. But did it need to be solved then and there? Probably not. Could I kept it and just tried to solve it in my own time when there was 5 minutes free? Probably. So I think that's an emotional side of, if we're talking about just me, like it's holding back an emotion when you can let an emotion out when it's needed. But I think sometimes having too many emotions at work can actually be a hindrance. You've got to be, we're all human at the end of the day. We all experience emotions, but I think you've got to pick and choose on which ones you show. Maybe that's wrong, but I just think there's a level where it can be too over emotional. If I think of it, if I was at work and something awful had happened to Jenny, I'm one of these people. I'll be like, right, stop, let's have a chat, right, let's gather ourselves. Do you need to go home? She says, no, I want to continue to work. Right, we go back to work. If you want to go home and experience your emotions, you go do that. But I think that's where you've got to kind of go, is it okay to stay at work, or is it okay to go and express your emotions at home?
It's very interesting because, I'm trying to rack my brain here. And I do think there is a certain advantage, which is, I've been in management like 5 years now. I've managed men, women, people who I identify as something else. And so the one thing that I've realized that might be an advantage to having somebody who's more expressive is knowing up front what that person's going through. I realize that sometimes I've seen this myself in men where their performance will start to dip down. And it is not my job to mentor them. It's my job to pick up their performance. But the problem is I can't do that. Because that's the reason for their performance is down to something else. And that's definitely an advantage that I can think of. But you're also right in saying it's not optimal for a business. There are certain hindrances that can't work. You've got to have a line, haven't you? It's that balance of you're there to work. This isn't therapy. But at the same time, I'm a very emotional person, so I'm very empathetic. And I'm not somebody that's like, well, you're at work, hon, so stop crying. I'm not like that. I'm not like that. I'm actually too empathetic sometimes, so I would cry with them. It's okay. But I think you've got to find that line. It's great to say your opinion. It's great to show emotion. It's great to be empathetic, but you've got to remember that you're there to do a job at the same time, I think. Moving on, do you think that as a young female entrepreneur, you've had any disadvantages come your way?
100%. It's something I feel really passionate about. I am 100% one of these people that is like, as a woman in business, you come across hurdles and disadvantages that a man won't experience. One of these is receiving even simple things like invoices on time.
Really?
There was a TikTok trend going around, which I've done, and it works. And it is when you're struggling to get an invoice paid, pretend you're a man and see how fast that invoice gets paid. I've tried it with 3 people. The day Josh emailed, I received that payment on the day.
You've got like evidence at this point. You've seen it first in the flesh.
3 people, and they weren't just men I've dealt with. That was 2 women and 1 man. So there is an element in business where, what is it about a woman's authority that people don't take seriously? I've had people walk in and speak to me completely different to the way they speak to Josh. And I've even been in meetings and they've directly ignored that I'm there, and they speak to Josh like this.
Really?
And I'm sat next to him, and it's my business.
Yeah.
You know,
it's your
Josh,
name on the door.
Yeah, it's mine. This is my full-time job.
Yeah.
Josh is in this business. I call him a co-founder because he is a co-founder, right?
Yeah.
But he has his full-time job. He has his baby. This is my baby. And one thing that's really sad to me is my old job. When I started this business, and I was in my old job.
Yeah.
Somebody I worked with came upstairs in front of the manager that was standing in at the time, and she said, "Oh, have you seen Beth's doing this job?" Because the manager was asking me about this job, and she said, "Oh yeah, Josh did it all." And the manager went, "Oh, did he?" And I went, "No, Josh made me my label."
Yeah.
And she went, "No, but he built your website." No, I built that website. And in that moment in time, I went home to Josh and I said, even when my name is on this door, it's all about, my name is in the title, it still comes back to, well, Josh built that. Yeah. Do you know how many people, even last week, I had somebody say, Josh is dead good at editing those videos, isn't he?
And it's
me.
It's you.
And I'm not trying to take away from Josh. He's fantastic and he adds a lot. This business won't be what it is without Josh. He adds a lot of input. But at the end of the day, where does that come from? Where does it come from when I've actually said, no, I make the videos, I do the photography, but people still go, Josh is amazing. That I do find that really hard, and there's a lot of it in this business. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the podcast with Stephen Bartlett and Karen Brady that's just been on, but they spoke about when you have a baby, and they said it's like 54,000 women come back and are treated unfairly after having a baby. So when they return back to their jobs.
So this is crazy because I didn't know this, but carry on, please.
Yeah, it's like 54,000 women are treated unfairly when they return back to their jobs after having a baby, to the point where they have to leave their job or find a new job, because it's another hurdle that we face for my business. Is one thing that I would never want to have, is that, you know, when people have a baby, it's not thinking that they're a spare part and they're not going to perform as well. It's actually accommodating their role to help them. And there's a lot of that still. I mean, that's not for my business right now. We're not at this stage, neither of us are having a baby right now, but we've both got little kids. Callow's 4 next month and Jenny has a 1-year-old, and I'm very accommodating, and actually that doesn't make her any less of an asset to my business. Right,
which is, I don't think something people realise.
If anything, it makes her more of an asset, because what Jenny has is the drive to fight for her son.
Right.
It's to provide, she can't just call in sick and not get pay, because she's got her son to provide for, and it's the same with me with Callow. I come to work when I don't feel like to come to work because I need money for my daughter. And I think, if anything, if people had that outlook instead of actually when they have a baby, oh God, they're going to have to go pick up their kid from... No, they're going to come in and they're going to turn up and work hard to get money for their kid. It's that whole feminism topic of people think when you talk about this sort of stuff, like I am, and obviously I'm passionate about it, they think you're anti-men. And it's nothing to do with that. Men are also fighting. Like Josh goes to work and he's providing for Callow. He's working just as hard to provide for Callow. Like there's other men just working just as hard. But it's just having the mutual respect that just the woman isn't, we're the caregivers and the man is the breadwinner. So it's just, I think it literally just is simple. One thing I would say is what people watching the tone on how they speak to women, because it's degrading. They can be degrading without knowing it, and that's women to women and men to women. That's not just a men to women thing. It's watching your tone, because I could walk in a room and I could be talking to you about my business, and you'll be talking to me in one way. Obviously not you specifically, but you'll be talking to me. You'll be talking to me one way, but then Josh will walk into this room next to me, and the tone is completely different. And I think it's just being mindful of treating one with respect, because we're both just as important whether we're female or male.
I have to confess something, but it was a very valuable lesson to me, and I think it might be a valuable lesson to others. I don't think it was a case of respect. I think it was a case of volume. There is somebody that currently still works for us, and she is just sensational at her job. She goes from strength to strength. She's quite a shy character. And I realized I was in a meeting. I'd put together 3 of my people in a team to try and solve this problem. And she was one of those individuals. It was 2 guys and her. She was brought in to design the system that was there to fix this issue. We finished the meeting. And we were just sort of chit-chatting for about 5 minutes. I honestly don't even remember this, but then I said a joke and everybody laughed and she didn't laugh.
Right.
And this isn't where you think it's going. But she just stayed quiet for a while and the guys left. And I went, hey, is everything okay? And she goes, I made that exact same joke 5 minutes ago.
And nobody laughed?
No, nobody heard it.
And nobody heard it?
Yeah.
And even worse.
And that was the thing. It was like I'd realised that I'd put her in a room with the three of us guys who are very loud, who do generally take authority over a room. But it was the fact that I'd let down my responsibility to elevate the voices of those around me.
Yeah.
And I felt terrible. I'd assumed she'd forgotten about it by now, but I carried that with me.
She's still going to bed. Damn you, Salma.
That guy. But it was one of those things where I think it opened my eyes to a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
It wasn't that particular scenario.
Yeah.
It was the case of like, this shit is just passing me by. And more just the fact that any quiet voice it is as somebody in leadership, your responsibility to elevate that.
Yeah.
But there is a big assumption of if you're not bad, you're good. That is the default section. I think I was going through that for a while of just like, I'm not bad. I don't hold any women back from promotions. I recruit as equally as I can. But here I am in the simplest of settings, and I've something like that, just like the default setting.
Yeah.
There is, I think, a level of like active change required for you to be able to pat yourself on the shoulder and go, I'm doing all right, rather than just, well, I'm not doing the bad stuff, so I guess I'm fine.
You've hit the nail on the head there, though. It's when you walk into a room, you know, when you're on about the default setting, it hits the nail on the head, and it's what I maybe should have said is changing the default setting instead of, and it's not just paying attention, it's changing the default setting. A lot of people, when I walk into a room with Josh, they assume Josh is the CEO and I do the creative stuff.
I get,
to be fair, he probably would be better than me because his skill sets do lie there. But generically, when you walk into a room, I'm the girl, so I must be creative, and Josh is the CEO because he's a man. And I think it's just the default setting, and it's a shame because there's so many great, incredible women in business, and our voices are valuable. We're valuable, and we offer a lot. Like the emotional thing, I think it can make a lot of us really good managers. Not saying men can't be, they can just equally. Josh is very good because he's so level-headed, he's so fair, he's confident. However, what I have is the emotional side. I can look at somebody and go, you know what, I can look at your life and what's going on right now and what you've just told me, and I think right now you could go home, and you know, I'm very reasonable. And I think there's plus and minuses to both. It's just having both voices heard.
There's nothing I can say to argue against that. Cool. Now I want to ask you a couple of questions about your business, The Wandering Bee. One that I'm very well aware of that is yours. That you run.
Oh God, don't say that. I've like drilled onto it. It is mine.
It's not. I wanted to make funny bee. I didn't want to start controversial topics here. Something that you said at the very start, which I think encompasses your business really well, is you make kick-ass kind candles. Yeah. And I think it does focus around, you made some business decisions that are more costly. I don't think they were financially driven.
No.
The sustainability element, the fact that, walk us through some of the benefits of a Wandering Bee candle.
Yeah, so they're completely eco-friendly from start to finish. Everything we've done around with the Wandering Bee, down to our packaging, to the product, and the way we work, we've tried to do everything as sustainably as we can. So we use beer bottles for the bottles. We use soy wax over paraffin. All of our fragrance oils are clean and natural as possible. We are completely plastic-free brand. Everything we make is compostable and recyclable. Even the tape we use, we make sure it's obviously a paper tape. And even, this is going to sound really OTT, but I really think it's necessary. When you say you're a sustainable brand, you have to look at every single way you work. So there's several ways that we, like you say, that are not financially driven, that we had to make decisions and they've cost us a lot of money. For example, using companies for packaging that use a vegan ink and vegan glue, because many companies
glue, but ink.
Ink. You can have vegetable based ink, so we've gone for a company that use vegetable based ink, and There's several little things. For example, on machines, like our sanding machines, there's a method that would have been cheaper where you can just connect it to the mains and then it just puts water down it. But we use a pipe that kind of recycles the water.
Oh, cool.
So we put our pipe in it. It's actually really annoying for us to use. Like, it would be way easier to put it to the mains.
Yeah.
But we have like a bucket, and then the tube goes in the bucket, and then it just recycles the water.
Okay. It's
little minor things like, so even the way you work is sustainable, because I could have just put it to the mains and gone, well, this is easier, do that. So it's little things like that.
You've missed one, and I want to impress you by saying I've noticed.
Go on.
You care about what happens to the bottles after they've been used as candles.
100%, yeah. We actually have a massive focus on what do you do with. We have this whole campaign around what do you do with your bottles once you've used them. Do you upcycle them? We take them back as well, so we refill the candles. So we'll take it back. People bring it to us at market. Some people post them back to us, which is so nice. And people put like thank you cards and stuff. It's just
so sweet.
Honestly, it's like I feel like every company says this, but I have the best customers. But literally, they like write like little thank you notes and send me them back, and people bring me them in bags in markets. And we refill them all. So we melt them all down. The wax, if there's any wax residue, we melt it down, clean them all out, re-wick them, fill them up, and then sell them on. So yeah, that's a really good element of recycling again.
Here's the toughie. Why?
Come on. I'm always been super passionate about saving the planet. I mean, like,
it's a good cause.
I went vegan when I was at uni, and I kind of was one of the proper like pro in your face vegans.
Okay.
I'm not like that anymore, but I went through a stage where I was a proper like, well, why do you eat meat? And I'm not like that anymore. I actually don't care if you eat meat or not anymore. I'm a lot more relaxed about it. But I'm kind of like that a little bit with sustainability now.
Okay.
I just don't understand it when you receive parcels and it's covered in plastic, and I'm like, but there's an alternative. Or like we use EcoFlow, which is like packing peanuts that dissolve in water, and they're compostable and they're biodegradable, and your pets could eat them and they wouldn't, I don't recommend them either, but they're pet safe. Like, why would you use that? Why would you use something other than that, when that's available? I understand if there's not an alternative. When you're being pushed into a decision that you can't get out of, then fair. But when there's something on the market that is better, okay, I get it. For big businesses, there's a lot that has to go into making a decision. But when you're a small business, I don't think there's an excuse. When I see a small business using lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of plastic products, I'm like, well, there's lots of alternatives though, we shouldn't be sending it in that anymore. I don't know.
Have you felt, well, I suppose you wouldn't have because you started off in this way, but are there financial disadvantages to what you're doing? If yes, I imagine you still believe it's worth it. But is it more costly to do it this way?
Massively, unfortunately so. I think you find that even with eating, when you're eating non-meat based food, like your supermarket shop becomes more expensive. It's the same in business. When we're buying EcoFlow, it is more expensive. Our packaging that we're getting soon, because we've gone for the most eco-friendly packaging we could get, it's cost a lot more per unit. But it has to pay off, doesn't it? I mean, we can't just keep going forward in business and promoting bad things. My brain really struggles to get around, I get more profit, so who cares what's happening to the planet. I really struggle to wrap my brain around that. For me, I think if you can make a decision for change, I think we should, and I think it's a wise decision in this day and age, because I do it for passion, but also I think that people who are buying products today in this new generation, they're very woke, and we are very, very aware of what's going on in the world. This isn't something we don't know about. We're all becoming very aware, and it's actually I don't want to say it's trendy, but it is. People say that it's trendy. It's trendy for people. So I actually think it's probably bad business not to do it. So if you're going to save the planet and it's going to make your company more popular, why not?
Sure.
I just think you got to do it for the right reasons to begin with, though. Don't just do it because it's trendy. You got to know some stuff. You can't just go forward and start using eco-friendly packaging and go, I don't know, it said eco-friendly. You know? I don't know. I mean, actually, you can if you want, because at least it's a good start.
One step closer.
Yeah, it's one step closer.
So I'm genuinely curious. It seems like a lot of your moral compass has driven this business. It seems like there have been a lot of priorities, and we haven't spoken about one yet. That's money. So I'm very curious about where in your list of priorities money is, because you went with design, you went with a specific recipe, you picked the packaging for sustainability, passion. Where does money lie in the list of responsibilities for you?
Do you know, this stems back to a question that I got asked by my manager when I worked in recruitment, funnily enough. I got put into a room and she said, I want to know what drives you.
Oh, in recruitment, it has to be one.
yeah, it has to be.
Yeah,
like, up
it
here.
has to be the first 10.
Yeah. And you know what I said? I said money.
Yeah.
And she goes, no, it isn't. And I was like, eh?
Yeah.
She went, absolutely no, it isn't. She went, I'm not going to tell you what your motivation is.
Yeah.
I want you to go away and find it. And I never found it. I could never find out what my motivation was until I had Callie, but I don't think it was. I think it was about just before I started the Wandering Bee. My motivation is freedom. So that's what freedom is, what motivates me. So money comes into play with a part of freedom. You know, the whole money doesn't bring happiness. No. There's an element to it, isn't there? You know, the freedom side of what money brings. So money is quite high in it as a priority for my family. It's quite high as a priority so I can go on holiday and have nice things, but it's not up here for me. You know, it's not one of the highest priorities. I don't look at it and go, I'm doing this business because I want to be a millionaire. I actually couldn't be forced. I'd love to be comfortable. I'd love to have a nice house. I'd love to have a nice car. I'd love to have financial freedom. But you know what? As long as I'm happy, I can go on holiday. I make bloody good products to the best I can and people love them. I'm winning. So it's kind of like mid-range. As long as I got enough money, I'm all right.
Sounds like a good place to live.
Yeah. I think if you can keep that, though, because I think the thing is, as an entrepreneur, you keep moving the goalpost. Yeah. And I constantly move the goalpost. So, you know, this is just a random number off the top. It says you want to earn £10, yeah? You get to the £10, you want to earn 20. You get to the 20, you want to earn 50. You move it, you get 100. I always move the goalpost. So there is a money aspect to it because that money helps my business grow. Yeah. So it is very important when it comes to my business.
So glad you mentioned goals. Did you set yourself out any goals when you first started the business, or then when did some goals start to come into play?
Massive manifester.
Okay.
Manifest everything. My manifestations when I started the business, my top one was to work for myself. Okay. So I started in the February. I quit my job in the June and worked for myself by the June. Yeah. The one after that was I wanted to hire a member of staff and be in a unit. So they were kind of my three goals. Obviously, thankfully. I mean, I've got my fingers crossed. I don't know why, but I just hope it continues. I got those manifestations within my first year, which is amazing. And my goals now is I have like a list of manifestations that I want to achieve. And you know, the whole 1 year and 5 year plan. I have my 1 year, 5 year plans, but my actual like step-by-step goals. My goals now, I want a little team. My short-term goals, I want a little team. I obviously want to continue to grow, and I want to get into a few department stores. And then long-term goals, I mean, we're talking distribution center. You know, I want like my marketing departments. I want all little teams of everything. So long-term goals, we're going big. And then short-term, I just would like my little team. And one of my biggest goals, I want a bloody nice place to work. I want people to come into work and just absolutely love their job. And I know that's really hard because a lot of people would rather be with their families. Sure. But for me, I just think there's something really important about your staff coming in and being like, I feel like I've got the best job in the world. Yeah. One of the biggest compliments I've received since starting my business from go to now has been Jenny came in one day and said, I've never felt so fulfilled in a job. And that's like tooting my own horn, but I didn't say that. She said that. And I got such satisfaction out of that. I was like, that makes me emotional because I'm so scared of having somewhere that people don't want to come.
Yeah.
And I think your team work harder, and I think I work harder when you come in and you can whack the music on and all rally round and you're all cheering for the same goals. I think there's something special about that.
Yeah, and I think when you're in, you're somebody in your position, I'm not sure how many hours Jenny works here, but if you're asking somebody of 40 hours of their week, which is a large chunk, if not a majority of it, I think there is a certain responsibility to create a place.
100%.
Yeah. I don't think people realize that there's enough free shit you can do, as in like make yourself available to speak to people, really reward good listening,
taking what they have to say, taking their own ideas on board. I learn a lot. Dean and Sharon, which is Josh's mum and stepdad, have taught me a lot about what I know today, and I'm still learning every day. I get things wrong all the time, but they teach me like a large proportion of what I've learned today. And one of the things they always like kind of mentor me about is being a manager or a boss or a CEO. And I've learned so much from them about, you know, listening to people's ideas and taking them and not just going actually listening to what they have to say and actioning what they have to say. And I'm still learning. It's been a massive learning curve. You know, being a manager is so unnatural to me. I want to be a team. I'm a leader, but I don't think I'm a manager.
Okay.
I think there's a difference between the two, and I'm learning every day. So I'm saying this not as somebody trying to give advice. I'm just kind of repeating what I've been told and trying to action it myself.
Do you think that there is? Because I see this and I absolutely hate it. I think there is this pre-assumption that management is a reward for time served. I'm always talking about this and I absolutely hate it. I think anybody...
Actually, that's very true.
Yeah, I think if you see somebody in a position long enough, they're worthy of a position in management, which might be the case, but I don't think people assume enough about the responsibilities that come with being a manager.
I've actually never thought about it. That's so true.
I think it's easy to be an okay manager. I think that's super easy. To be good, great, there's so much to it.
So hard.
There's so much. Like, how long would you say? Is it just at the Wandering Bee? Have you been in management before?
Never been in management. I went through management training. Oh God, I say management training. I didn't really. I got put on a course and then I fell pregnant. Yeah. So, but yeah, I kind of been through a little bit of mentoring at Selfridges, but no, I've never managed.
I've probably done it for just over 5 years, and I think I've just stopped sucking at it.
Really?
Like, I wouldn't even say I'm anywhere near good. I think I've just stopped sucking at it.
And you know what, Sam? I get it. It's really hard. And one thing that me and Jenny talk about, we're very honest with one another, is I'm like a pinball. Well, you know, you've seen me. I'm like a pinball all the time. Ideas. I'm pinballing around the room. Yeah. I'm like, I've got this, and then this, and then this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And one thing that, you know, she does great with is putting up with me. And I think it's one thing that I'm even learning now is like, you know what? You've got to chill. Because you have staff and they're not going to understand what's going on in my brain. Yeah. So like you said, where you've only just stopped sucking, I think I still suck. I think I'm just doing my best. And I think that as long as you're doing your best and your staff can see that you're trying your best.
Yes.
And you are empathetic and you are listening. And then I think people allow it.
Yeah, I think that shows your trajectory is going in the right way. I think being just somebody you can tolerate, having a manager that you can just sort of tolerate, that's very scary. Yeah. I've been in those positions where you just think 5 years time, I'm going to be exactly where I am, you're going to be exactly where you are. Yeah. Neither of us are going to be happy.
Yeah, I get it.
Look, I have probably about 20 more questions, but I'm not going to ask them because we're going to run out of charge, memory, all sorts. I do just want to ask you one last thing. Are there any questions I should have asked you that I haven't? Or is there anything you want to talk about that we haven't spoken about? Or is there anything you want to ask? There's like 3 questions, but...
Let me have a think.
So you essentially have 2 choices. You can ask me to ask you a question. Well, you can do both of these. Or you can ask me a question. Or we could do both.
Do you know what I'd be interested to ask you?
Go on.
Why would you find that you'd want to have me on your podcast? Of all the people that you know, why would you choose that you'd want to have me on? Or the Wandering Bee, not just me?
I think it stems back to what Harvey said. You yourself, you as a team with Josh and your business is... You, as a concept, is very easy to root for. But the main thing is the fact that you fucking did it.
Thanks.
And by it, I mean start. Like, you've got huge dreams and ambitions for this place. The word success is very subjective, but I'd argue that's very applicable here. I'm reading a book at the moment, I have it somewhere with me, called Ego is the Enemy. It says, talking and doing fight for the same resources. It's the fact that when you talk about wanting something for long enough, you feel like you've done something and you want to pat yourself on the shoulder.
That's interesting.
And it's made me realize about all of the stuff I did before I actually did, which was pretty much just talk.
Right, yeah.
And I have a huge admiration for the doers of the world. And this doesn't have a huge viewership, but I think wherever I see that probably deserves a bit of a limelight.
Oh, that's...
and that's why I was just very curious to me.
Nice.
And like I said, to feed my own curiosity, I had 100 questions. I've had 20 that I didn't ask.
Yeah.
But I think maybe that comes in part 2.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question? I
literally love that. Yeah, that was so nice. Thank you. I was going to say, are you going to do a part 2 or are we ending it after this?
No.
Because I was going to say a little something.
Go ahead. Okay.
Have we got time?
Are you okay to say it without the video? Because that might die.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So I was going to say that, it's been a lot about me. Like what we've spoke about, it's been a lot about me and a lot about obviously the Wandering Bee, which is what we talked about. But also, I'd love to shine a light on like mothers. I think it's one thing that we don't get enough respect for. In business, especially, it's really, really hard. And I think a lot of it comes down to that the mothers are the carers, the mothers. XYZ. And if you're a mother listening to this and you sat there going, I'd love to do something like that. I'd love to do that. If you have, because we know how tough kids are, dads included, kids are tough. If you have, 10 minutes of your day, 20 minutes of your day to do just a little bit of research on what you'd love to do, just spend that 10, 20 minutes for over a couple of weeks and develop a kind of like plan and strategy and just try your best to find some time away to just do that one thing. When I was starting out, and it sounds so easy when I said it, and I thought as soon as I said it that I made it sound so easy when I said, I just did it. No, I had Carlo screaming in the background, crying for a tea. Yeah. It was hard. It was really hard, and I cried a lot. But if you have enough passion and drive, I really do think you can make just even 10 minutes, because I know 10 minutes are even hard to get, a bit of time and shining a light for mothers, because I think that, there isn't enough of a light shine. People think when you become a mother, you're just a mother. Right. But we have so much more potential. So it's just, I don't know. You
said research as well. What's another first step that people can take to just go out and do? They magically find 10 minutes, which I can imagine is really hard. I don't find 10 minutes, and I'm only responsible for my fucking self. So I can imagine how hard it must be. But if somebody had 10 minutes, what's a good first step? Or what can you say to help them overcome the fear that they might not be able to do it?
Oh, good question.
Okay.
That to overcome the fear of maybe not being able to do something, one is don't put too much thought into it. I know that sounds daft.
No, I agree.
But it's the honest truth. When I just said, what about candles, and ordered a bag of wax, it's because there was no thought.
Yeah.
I didn't think about, is this going to work? I didn't think, where are we going to go? I didn't think about, well, what's our brand name going to be? People get so caught up on what their name's going to be. Don't care about that. Don't think about it. Focus on getting something that people are going to want and spend money on. Because if you want it to be a full-time job, they need to want to spend money. Spend the money on. And something that you feel like you can get passionate about. People say you've got to do something that you love. I don't believe in that. I think you've got to have enough passion.
Well, are you okay if we just subtitle this?
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah. I think you've got to have, enough passion. For me, I didn't absolutely adore candles. Yeah. Candles weren't my be-all and end-all. They really weren't. But I knew I had enough passion to put behind them. Yeah. I had enough passion behind creating a sustainable product. That's what I could push forward with. So don't get caught up and hung up on all the little things, because they'll come with time. Yeah. Don't worry about what you're going to do with your kid if it does take off. Don't worry about what you're going to do in your full-time job if you start getting orders. Don't worry about the Mason in the background is screaming for his tea. Go sort out your child. You're fine. You got this. Like, you can be a mum and you can be an entrepreneur, and it's friggin' hard. It's not easy. I don't feel like it's been easy. It's been really hard. and it's hard to find the time. But if you don't put the thought into it and you just try your best to just do it, I think it helps. Like, for a classic example is, I hate it when people knock wax melts. It really bugs me because it irks my soul, because I can be stood on a market and somebody will come over me and take the piss out of somebody doing wax melts. And I see jokes and memes about it all the time, and it really annoys me. I'm like, that person, do you know how much it probably took for them to even start making those wax melts? Do you actually know how much effort goes into making wax melts? It's a lot. They didn't just wake up one morning and just shove some wax in a thing. They've tested it, they've put the time in it. There's so many out there because people want to do something for themselves. Yes, it is predominantly mothers. It's because it's something that works around the kids. Don't sit there and say that wax melts aren't good enough or candles aren't good enough. If you don't put too much thought into it, it all comes back to that thing for working mothers and working dads. You know, it's going for something and going, I'll work it out as I go, and not thinking this is too much of a big feat for me. That was just, I feel really passionate about that.
It's inspirational as fuck, and the camera died for it. God damn it.
God.
Ram, make something magical out of that, please. Dear God, please. That was great. I'm going to have to film a bit of an outro outside of this alongside with the intro. But thank you very much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
I've loved it.
We will have to do a part 2 because I have too many questions.
I would love to do a part 2.
We'll do it at some point in the very early future, I hope. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.